We don't have that kind of money just sitting around, Sharita. You need to be realistic about this. My father stood in the doorway of my apartment, arms crossed, his face a wall of stern refusal. Behind him, my mother nodded in silent agreement, her lips pressed into a thin line. I stood there, fists clenched, the doctor's diagnosis still ringing in my ears from that afternoon's call. The scan results had slammed into me like a punch. At 31 years old, living in Indianapolis, Indiana, and working as an accountant at a local firm, I'd built a stable life on my own until the verdict. Early-stage breast cancer, aggressive but treatable if acted on fast. The specialist quoted $10,000 out of pocket for the chemotherapy that could save my life. Without it, the spread would accelerate, giving me maybe 3 months. Time was my enemy. I'd rushed to my parents' suburban house just 20 minutes away, gripping the cost breakdown like a weapon. This could stop the cancer in its tracks, I said, voice firm, despite the panic surging inside. The doctor said delay means it could turn fatal. My mother moved forward, her hand on my father's arm in that habitual gesture, easing the hit without defying him. Sweetie, we understand, but we've supported you so much already. We can't empty our savings. Not empty them, I countered. Alone. I'd repay every dollar, take side jobs, sell what I had. But my father shook his head. You're barely afloat now. How could you pay us back? Try medical loans or assistance programs. I'd exhausted those options, predatory rates that would drown me, deeper approvals denied due to my existing bills. This was my final lifeline. My mother's gaze flickered with brief pity, but my father shut it down. We can't do it, Sharita. Our own security comes first. They turned and left, the door clicking shut like a final judgment. But I never expected what my sister would say next. If this betrayal hits close to home, smash that subscribe button for more raw family stories like this, and drop a like if you've ever fought for fairness in tough times. 2 weeks after the refusal, I dove into survival mode. I applied for every high-interest personal loan I could find, ignoring the predatory rates that would haunt me for years. The first approval came through for $5,000, but the fees ate into it immediately. I sold my reliable sedan for a beat-up compact that rattled on the highway, pocketing $2,000 after fees. My grandmother's necklace, the one heirloom I cherished, went to a pawn shop for $800, barely enough for one chemo session. I moved from my cozy one-bedroom in downtown Indianapolis to a cramped studio on the outskirts, cutting rent by $400 a month. Every night I'd sit at my tiny table, spreadsheets open, calculating how to stretch the funds. The chemo started draining my energy but keeping the cancer at bay. Dr. Keisha monitored me closely, adjusting doses when side effects hit hard. Friends from work chipped in small amounts through a quick fundraiser I set up, raising another $1,000, but it felt like drops in a bucket. Then the call from my younger sister Shanta came. Her voice bubbled with excitement, cutting through my fatigue like a sharp blade. Sharita, guess what Reggie proposed? We're getting married, and Mom and Dad are covering everything, no limits. I forced a congratulations, my stomach twisting, as she rambled about destination options in Hawaii or Mexico. Dad said it's his princess's day, so go big. We're talking $320,000 total, venue, flowers, the works. $320,000. The number slammed into me, far more than the $10,000 I'd begged for. I gripped the phone tighter, picturing their comfortable house filled with wedding catalogs while my bills piled up. That's amazing, I managed, but she kept going, describing the planner meetings and tastings at upscale spots. The drama escalated when Mom called a few days later. Sharita, Shanta wants you as a bridesmaid. The dresses are $400 each, order soon. $400 that could cover a week's meds. I can't afford it right now, I said. With the treatments? Mom sighed. This is your sister's big day. Life doesn't stop for everyone else's issues. I bit back a retort, but the hurt festered. Later that week, I overheard a conversation at a family lunch. I dragged myself to Dad, whispering to Mom about a hidden savings account they'd dipped into for the wedding deposit. "We couldn't touch that for Sharita's thing," he said. "Priorities." The twist hit like chemo nausea. They'd had the money all along but chose Shanta's extravagance over my survival. I left early, resolve hardening. Then my condition worsened and I wondered if they'd even care. The following month, symptoms flared without warning. Fatigue turned into constant nausea and sharp pains radiated from my chest during routine checkups. I called Dr. Keisha's office in a panic, and she ordered immediate admission to the hospital in central Indianapolis. Monitors beeped steadily as nurses hooked me up to IVs, stabilizing the spread that chemo had barely contained so far. "Your body's fighting hard," Dr. Keisha said during rounds, her tone professional yet concerned. "But without full funding for the remaining sessions, we're pushing limits." I nodded from the bed, gripping the rail as another wave hit isolation, amplifying the physical toll. Work emails piled up, unread, my boss granting unpaid leave, but warning about job security. Bills from the initial treatments mocked me from my phone screen, $1,500 overdue already. My parents dropped by once, staying 15 minutes tops. Dad stood awkwardly by the window, glancing at his watch. "We heard about the flare-up," he said. Mom sat on the edge of the bed, patting my hand. "Try to stay positive." But their conversation quickly shifted to Shanta's wedding details, the custom invitations arriving that week, the photographer's portfolio they needed to review. "The colors have to match perfectly," Mom added, as if my hospital room was just a brief stop. I mentioned the escalating costs for extra meds, $2,000 more, but Dad changed the subject. "We'll pray for you." They left for a floral consultation, promising to check back soon, a promise that rang hollow. Mom's call came 2 days later, her voice light despite my situation. The bachelorette party was fabulous, $15,000 well spent on a weekend in Napa. Private vineyard tours, spa sessions, gourmet dinners. Shanta glowed the whole time. I lay there, IV dripping, calculating how that sum could cover my entire treatment twice over. "Sounds perfect," I replied flatly. She rambled on about the laughter and toasts, oblivious to my labored breathing. Then the twist landed via a text from Shanta herself. "Heard you're in the hospital again. Tough break, but don't let it ruin my vibe. Wedding stress is enough." She knew about the severity from Mom's updates but chose silence to keep her celebrations uninterrupted. The message stung sharper than any needle, confirming her complicity in the family's priorities. Chemo resumed aggressively once stabilized sessions, leaving me weakened but determined. Dr. Keisha adjusted protocols, adding supportive drugs that eased side effects. I pushed through final round scans showing the cancer retreating. Discharge came with strict follow-up instructions, my body battered but alive. The betrayal fueled a quiet fire inside, reshaping my view of blood ties. As I recovered, a seed of justice grew, but 4 years would change everything. 6 months after the wedding, recovery kicked into high gear. I enrolled in an online master's program in business administration, logging hours after work to build credentials for promotion. Classes covered financial modeling and leadership skills that sharpened my edge at the firm. My manager noticed the extra effort, assigning me lead on a major client audit that boosted my visibility. The promotion to senior accountant came with a 15% raise, easing the debt burden slightly. I opened a high-yield savings account, funneling every spare dollar into it, no splurges, just disciplined deposits. Physical therapy sessions twice a week rebuilt my strength, with scans confirming the cancer's remission. Dr. Keisha scheduled quarterly checkups, her updates reinforcing my progress. I joined a support group for survivors in Indianapolis, sharing strategies on managing long-term side effects like lingering fatigue. Social media became my window into their lives. I'd scroll late at night, profiles popping up with updates I couldn't ignore. My mother's page filled with photos of Shanta's pregnancy announcements, baby showers at upscale venues, and nursery reveals in pastel themes. One post stood out: a family dinner celebrating the birth of my niece Tanya, with captions gushing over our first grandchild arriving healthy and perfect. The twist sliced deep. They'd erased my ordeal entirely, as if my brush with death never happened. Comments from extended relatives echoed the sentiment, no one correcting the narrative. Dad's rare posts showed golf outings at their country club, vacations to Florida beaches, all funded by the same resources they'd withheld from me. Shanta's feed was a highlight reel of marital bliss. Reggie by her side in matching outfits, Tanya's milestones front and center. A holiday card arrived in the mail, professionally printed with their smiling family, backside scribbled, "Thinking of you," as an afterthought. I started a private journal documenting timelines and expenses. Entries detailed the $10,000 plea versus their $320,000 splurge, cross-referenced with hospital records and wedding receipts I'd pieced from overheard details. Screenshots of those posts went in too, building a digital archive of their choices. Birthdays passed with generic cards, from them $50 gift cards to chains I never shopped. One year, Dad called about contributing to Tanya's college fund, his voice casual, as if nothing had fractured. I ended the call abruptly. The distance grew, their outreach sporadic and superficial. I focused on my climb, landing the manager role after acing a certification exam. Savings hit 5 figures, a buffer against future storms. Yet the journal expanded, pages filling with resolve. Then Letitia's email arrived, revealing their downfall. 4 years later, stability had become my foundation. I'd established a solid role at the firm, overseeing departmental budgets and coordinating with vendors for streamlined operations. Professional conferences in nearby cities broadened my expertise, leading to collaborations on industry panels. Financial recovery progressed through automated debt repayments, trimming balances steadily over time. Wellness routines included yoga classes at a local gym, maintaining physical resilience post-treatment. Dr. Keisha's ongoing evaluations confirmed no recurrence, with lifestyle adjustments like balanced diets supporting long-term health. I took on freelance consulting gigs, adding supplemental income to bolster security. Community involvement grew through speaking at career workshops, sharing insights on overcoming setbacks. Letitia's email arrived unexpectedly one afternoon. The header stated, "Important family news." She explained that Dad's employer had collapsed amid an accounting scandal, with federal probes uncovering inflated revenues and hidden liabilities. As a department head, he'd been laid off in the mass cuts. His 401k evaporated in the stock plunge tied to the fraud charges. The home equity line they'd tapped for emergencies now compounded the problem, with payments defaulting amid unemployment. "They're in denial," Letitia noted, "but foreclosure papers are real. They're desperate for aid." The update registered with a detached precision, their downfall mirroring the vulnerability they'd ignored in me. Irony struck as I recalled their lectures on financial prudence, now exposed as hollow. The phone assaults began shortly after. Mom's initial voicemail pleaded urgency. "Sharita, we need to speak, it's serious." I ignored it, but Dad's text followed, "Call home, important." Another from Mom. "Everything's falling apart here, please respond." Their persistence escalated to a live call I took. "Sharita, your father speaking. The job's gone bankrupt overnight. Retirement nest egg wiped clean." Midway, the admission surfaced. They'd maintained an off-books brokerage account for rainy days, but the scandal's market ripple had liquidated it. "It was our safety net," he confessed. "Now we're facing $100,000 short on the mortgage. Could you spot us to bridge the gap?" Mom jumped in. "Even half would save us. We're turning to our daughters." I hung up mid-sentence, their entreaties a stark reversal of roles. The parallel fueled a quiet reflection on how their choices had led here. That evening, I accessed online databases reviewing bankruptcy dockets for the company and lien records on their property. Documents revealed escalating delinquencies, sheriff sales scheduled in 90 days. their online presence faded, profiles locked or deleted amid the scrutiny. The parallel fueled methodical verification, cross-checking timelines of their crisis against public announcements. News articles detailed the CEO's arrest, employee lawsuits piling up. I noted how Dad's name appeared in subsidiary reports, tying him peripherally to the mess. The scale unfolded through property tax records showing unpaid assessments, adding to the burden. When they showed up at my door, the reckoning began. A week later, they appeared at my apartment unannounced. Dad knocked persistently, Mom and Shanta flanking him on the doorstep like a reluctant delegation. I peered through the peephole, noting their disheveled appearances. Dad's tie askew, Mom's makeup smudged, Shanta clutching a purse tightly. I opened the door but blocked the entry with my frame. "What do you want?" Dad stepped forward. "Sharita, let us in. We need to discuss this properly." I shook my head. "Say it here." Mom's eyes welled up. "We're losing the house. The bank's moving fast. $100,000 would stop it," Shanta added. "We've pooled what we can, but it's not enough. You're doing well now, help us." I crossed my arms, the scene unfolding like a scripted irony. I invited them inside, reluctantly seating them on the couch while I stood. "You come begging after everything." Dad leaned forward. "We know we made mistakes, but family sticks together." I pulled out the folder I'd prepared, laying documents on the table. Medical bills stamped with $10,000 demands sat beside wedding vendor invoices totaling $320,000. "Mistakes? You chose this over my life." Mom glanced away. "We didn't realize how bad it was." I pressed. "You did. I showed you the prognosis, the costs. What was unclear?" Silence hung heavy. Shanta shifted. "It was my wedding, once in a lifetime." The twist surfaced. Then Shanta confessed she'd overheard discussions about the hidden account, but stayed quiet to secure her day. "I thought you'd figure it out," she said. Dad nodded reluctantly. "We prioritized wrong." I paced the room. "Say it outright, you chose the wedding over saving me." Dad's voice broke. "We had the funds and spent them on Shanta's wedding instead of your treatment," Mom whispered. "We were selfish," Shanta muttered. "It was a mistake." I produced the check for $100,000 dated that day. "Take it, but on terms." They perked up. "Sign this agreement, no more contact, no cards, no calls. You vanish from my life as you let me fade from yours." Dad scanned the paper. "This is harsh," I countered. "Harsh like watching you celebrate while I fought alone," Shanta protested. "We're blood," I replied. "Blood didn't stop you from erasing me." They signed hands, trembling, Dad first, then Mom, Shanta last, with a glare. I handed the check. "Now leave." They filed out, Mom sobbing, Dad slumped, Shanta stiff. I slammed the door shut, the sound echoing my final severance. But the real justice was just starting to unfold. Months after the exposure rippled outward, I compiled the dossier, meticulously timelines of my pleas, itemized wedding costs, hospital summaries, and fresh screenshots of their recent pleas. Attached to an email for Letitia, I instructed her to share with the extended network if she saw fit. "They deserve to know the full picture," I wrote. Letitia forwarded it widely, chains reaching aunts, uncles, and cousins across states. Social media threads erupted overnight, relatives questioning the priorities in hushed group chats. Whispers turned to outright discussions, with some unfriending my parents online. Their church community, once a weekly staple, grew distant. Invites to events dried up after the pastor caught wind. Country club memberships lapsed without renewal, former golf buddies citing scheduling conflicts. Neighbors in the suburb avoided eye contact, garage sales, drawing curious stares but few buyers. The financial spiral accelerated. Public listings showed the house hitting the market at a loss, buyers scarce amid the scandal's taint. They sold for 80% of value, barely covering the mortgage shortfall. Legal bills from the company's fallout mounted, forcing liquidation of remaining assets like Dad's prized watch collection and Mom's jewelry. Unemployment stretched on Dad's applications rejected due to the association with the fraud case. Shanta and Reggie offered temporary shelter, but tensions flared, arguments over space and finances leading to their eviction notice. The family scattered, parents downgraded to a rundown motel on the city's edge, weekly rates eating into meager Social Security checks. Shanta's posts vanished, her profile going private as friends distanced themselves from the drama. Reggie lost a promotion opportunity when the story surfaced at his workplace. Tanya's playdates canceled, the child's routine disrupted by the instability. My own path diverged sharply. Annual scans confirmed the cancer's permanent defeat, no traces lingering after rigorous follow-ups. Energy returned in full, allowing hikes in nearby state parks and volunteer shifts without fatigue. At a networking seminar, I met Alex, a software engineer with a steady demeanor and shared interest in financial planning. Our coffee meetups evolved into dates, his support genuine, no hidden agendas, just mutual respect built over months. We traveled to coastal spots, conversations flowing easily about future goals. Alex proposed after a year, our engagement simple yet profound, ring chosen together on a modest budget. In reflection, their downfall taught harsh realities. Selfishness breeds isolation, stripping away networks and homes. They wandered motel lobbies, belongings in storage units, a far cry from suburban comfort. I built anew love and health as my anchors. Family isn't blood, it's choice, and mine led to freedom.